A couple of weeks ago, we got a letter, the insurance renewal. And as you can see from this dramatic reconstruction, it didn't go down that well.
What the
Let me read to you what it said. Last year you paid 380 odd quid. Now you're paying 530. Now that may seem like a huge amount compared to some people, especially if you're young, but that's a near 40% increase. The figures I'm about to show you from the other people have sent me is essentially the same or even worse. So is there anything we can do to negate at least some of this massive, ridiculous price increase, which is due to a multitude of factors, which again, I'll talk about in a minute? Is there some things we can do to bring it down at least a bit? Before we go down reading some of these ridiculous prices that people put on Twitter, let me tell you about something which I genuinely used months before they approached me. It's a sponsorship and it's from these guys. It's HelloFresh, the company we started using several months after Harry on the channel started using them. That's how we got into it. And it's really changed what me and Alice do for the meals we have, especially as I'm inherently lazy when it comes to deciding what to eat and then going to buy it in the shops. Here it is! Now I can't get past the camera. All the recipes. Meal number 1, number 2, and number 3. You go on the website, you pick any of a number of 40 odd or more recipes, and then you think, well, I'll have that. Look at the entire recipe, I'll have that, I'll have that. If you want to skip a week because you're on holiday or you just fancy something else, then you skip a week. My wife works evenings and nights, and although we both do cooking, I'm not a total imbecile, it's the shopping I can't be bothered doing. Perfectly measured, nothing wasted, and let's face it, step-by-step instructions that even I can understand. But it's had the side effect of not only having better meals than we normally do, but my daughter is actually doing some of the cooking. Seriously, she's actually done a lot of these meals. As long as you look like you know you can cook, that's good enough for me. I don't think in a million years I'd have ever made my own garlic butter. It's probably the first thing you thought when you saw this channel for the first time. I bet he makes his own garlic butter. Lamb with green beans, crushed potatoes and garlic butter. All homemade by me! Sorry, by us. Daddy-daughter night is now becoming posh eating night. Portions start at just £3.15 and that's before this discount code, which you can get by going to www.hellofresh.co.uk/electric60. There's also this handy QR code that I'll put up in the corner, and if you go to the description below or as a pinned comment, you can just click on the www.hellofresh.co.uk/electric60. That gives you 60% off your first box and 25% off the next 8 boxes. So that's 2 months. It's not often that a sponsorship aligns with something you actually use on YouTube, but in this case it absolutely does. So thanks to them for keeping this channel going. And again, go to hellofresh.co.uk/electric60 for what we've been enjoying for months now. So back to insurance. What have other people had at the same time as me? £563, now it's £882. Mine's doubled from £250 to £500, so that's a 100% increase. Ours has gone up over 100% for initial quotes for both our ID3 and our Octavia. This guy's gone from 337 to 609, and this one's quite scary. It was £1,600 last year, and this year it is £2,400. So that's £800 more than the previous year, which quite frankly is more than most people's mortgage. And that's just how much it's gone up by. It's getting to the point where car insurance is probably the single greatest factor with buying or owning a car, after maybe buying it itself. It's getting to levels that is genuinely pricing people out of being able to drive. Now, I don't want to get too political. This is clearly an insurance thing. And although I do believe there is bound to be some profiteering out there, let's be realistic. These are not charities. They're insurance companies. They're here to make money. In 2022, the average, according to that statistic I read anyway, was that for every £1 the insurance company received, they paid out about £1.10. So I imagine they're making up for it this year by, well, increasing the premium substantially. Prices of cars has gone up. So if your car gets written off, It's more expensive to replace it now than it ever has been. The paint, the mechanics, time, the body shop's time, labour costs, energy costs, all have skyrocketed for businesses as much as they have for us. So that has to be passed on to someone, and it's going to be the customer. But there are certain things you can do to negate this increase, and some of it is quite straightforward. The first one is shop around. This is something that you should be doing every year. Even if yours didn't go up at all, shop around. Someone is, not always, with us, our renewal price has been cheapest for the last few years, weirdly, but quite often it's a lot better to go somewhere else. Vote with your feet. Leave the company that's just whacked your price up by a huge amount and go with someone who is cheaper. That is something that always baffles me. When it's buying a new car or buying insurance, I can't be bothered excuse, or it's a lot of faff. Really? When we're talking hundreds, maybe even thousands of pounds, especially when you're buying a car, shop around. Visit more than one dealership, or in this case, more than one website. I always flip it around and say, okay, let's imagine that I approached you and said, here's £200. I want you to go and find me my cheapest insurance quote. I want you to do all the legwork. I want you to go on the various websites, do all the quotes for me, and I'll pay you £200 just for doing that. A couple of hours of your time. I think most people will go, yeah, no problems at all. I don't mind that. But when it's your own insurance, can't be bothered. Another thing, which is something I have fallen foul of. I should have done this a couple of years ago, but I've only just realised it now after such an increase has forced me to rethink my policy. The mileage on the Mini, that's the car that was up for renewal, was 10,000. It's always been 10,000. We've had the car for 6 and a bit years, I think, maybe 7, and 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. I've never really thought to think, well, do I actually do 10,000 miles in that car? And now, certainly over the last few years, we're doing more miles in the electric cars. We're getting a lot more press cars. So even though I'm doing 20-odd thousand miles a year, quite a bit of it, a chunk of it, is in somebody else's car, which is good for me, but it means I'm also paying for mileage on insurance that I'm not doing. So I dropped that down to 5,000 miles a year, which is what it's actually doing, and it's knocked about 100 odd quid off that renewal price. So it's gone up by 100 odd quid, but it's half the amount it was due to increase, because I've looked at the whole policy again. I've thought, is that correct today? So that is the first thing I would do. Whatever mileage you put down, which most people just go, just put 10, 12,000, it makes no difference. It does, or at least it can. So that's the first thing I'd check when it comes to renewal. How many miles are you doing to how much have you put down? Another thing is the job title. Now, I have one of those jobs where I do a multitude of things. I work in IT. A computer technician, I've been that for many years. I mean, I've worked at the same company for like 20 years. A computer technician, yes, I do that. I am that. Computer consultant, I do a lot of that now. Computer engineer, that's another one. You end up with lots of different job titles, usually, depending on what you're doing, on the choice on the website. So I changed from computer technician to computer consultant in my job role, and when I changed it on my job, my car insurance rather, it knocked it down by about 15%. When I asked, they said maybe because computer technicians carry equipment and computer consultants don't. I don't know, whatever the reason is, I changed my job role to something I'm genuinely doing. Don't make it up, don't lie, that could void your insurance. But because I didn't update my insurance policy to what I'm actually doing, my job role, my mileage and various other factors, then, well, I was spending money that I didn't need to. The excess. You can raise the excess, that brings the price down. So if you have an accident, you're paying the first 200 or 300 or 500 pound out. Sometimes it's not worth doing. I remember raising mine up by £100 and it knocked £30 off the car insurance renewal. So I thought, nah, not worth it. I've also done it on a renewal where I've put it up by £50 and it's made the car insurance renewal £100 cheaper. So that did make sense. So play about with the excesses. Make sure it's, it's within your realms, but that can make a decent difference as well and be beneficial to you. One more is the upselling that you always get. So you think, that's good, I will go ahead with this, and then it takes you to the point where it tells you how much and goes, would you like guaranteed hire car insurance? Would you like legal cover? All the things which typically get them money but don't really give you that much. For example, guaranteed hire car. The amount of people I've spoken to that said, oh no, I want a hire car or a courtesy car. If something happens to mine, I need a car. Unticking that or not ticking it doesn't mean you don't get a courtesy car. It just means they don't guarantee it. So for example, if you take your car into a body shop to get fixed and they have a courtesy car, they will provide you the courtesy car. It's nothing to do with the insurance. It's just a service they provide. Like when you get your car serviced at a garage and they go, here's the courtesy car. If they said they couldn't provide one, that's all the tick box means for the guaranteed hire car. Now, some people may benefit from this. I'm not saying it's not relevant to some, but I bet 80% of the people that have that ticked don't need it. It's 20, 30, 40, 50 pound, whatever it increases it by. For me, it's completely unnecessary. Especially as quite a few of the people I've spoken to, there's a person across the road and he said, oh yeah, I always tick that. But you have 3 cars. Why would you need a guaranteed hire car when you could just use one of your other ones if something happened? Oh yeah. So now he doesn't tick it at all because it was unnecessary. There's plenty of people out there, I'm sure, who do tick something they don't need. It doesn't mean you don't get one, it just means they don't guarantee it. And devil's in the detail. Same with legal cover and various other stuff. If you read the fine print, it's not actually that good. When my parents had an accident, they got a guaranteed hire car for 1 week. That's all they give you. So there's lots of other things, like shopping around. I think I mentioned that earlier. Did I say shopping around? I think I did. Changing your policy to what it is today. Now, it might have gone up, but it also might have gone down in terms of how many miles you do or so forth. Just go through every step of it and update it to what you are doing today. But for the sake of 10 minutes, 15 minutes, try it. It's just time. It's just a bit of time. It's all you need to potentially save yourself a wedge of money. Name drivers. That, logically, should increase the price. In my mind, if you add someone else on, then it would cost more. But you'll find that a lot of it actually has the opposite effect. I added my wife onto a car, going back a few years now, and it dropped by half. I have added my dad in the past so he could drive it, and indeed it brings it down. If you essentially add somebody who's probably a safer driver than you, I guess the assumption is they do part of the driving, therefore the car is less at risk overall and it goes down. So if there is someone else in your household that would benefit from driving the car, again, don't make anything up, add them onto it, see what it does. It might actually bring it down. When I added Harry, it made no difference at all. So I thought, well, yeah, he does occasionally drive cars, we go long distances, let's do that. Shopping around, did I mention that? That's quite important. Don't forget to shop around. It's one of those things that is a pain in the butt, isn't it, insurance? Again, as I said earlier, no one likes doing it. What's your name? What's this? What's that? You go through all that rigmarole only to find that some insurers go, yeah, we don't insure that. I genuinely don't know what's going to happen when my daughter finally gets old enough to drive, because it's something which I am encouraging her to do as soon as she's old enough. It's something that everybody should know for me, learn how to drive. But the insurance, that's going to be the big sticky point. Buying a car these days, it's not cheap, but I reckon we could probably do that. Buying the insurance, which is probably twice the price of a cheap car, every year, that's the tough one. For once, I'm actually glad I'm not in my early 20s when it comes to insurance, because some of the quotes I've seen from people I know who are in the early 20s is obscene. I told them I got £350 renewal about a year or two back, and they said, yeah, mine's about 350 quid. I went, all right, that seems pretty good for someone of your age, 22 years old. And they went, no, that's a month. What? There is one thing though, which I think is something the insurance companies could do something about. It's immensely wasteful, and it just seems to happen without even an investigation or some quoting. And that's writing off cars that clearly can be so easily fixed. But then it's like, nah, we're not even going to look at it. It looks like it's got damage there. We're just going to write it off. It's 3 months old. It's worth £40,000. Nah, we'll just replace it. It's easier. So I'm sure a lot of these big claims that we're seeing, petrol and electric, are because of that mentality. Right, thank you for watching. Thank you to HelloFresh. Here are all the details, the code, everything you'll need. It's all down below. And as I said earlier, I was using these long before the sponsorship came up. Please do comment if you've got something in terms of what you've done and it made it less. The insurance now, of course. How much has yours gone up by? Tell me what it was last year, what it is this year. Let's do a bit of a poll. Has yours gone up? Yes, I'm pretty sure of that. But but by how much. So either way, thanks for watching. If you like to subscribe and all that sort of stuff, that genuinely pushes the channel with YouTube's algorithm. And that's the easiest way to help any YouTube channel that you are a fan of. If you want to help us even more, then that's what the join button is. For 99p, you can become a member. You get videos like this on Sunday instead of Friday. So that's the benefit there. Thank you ever so much for watching. I'll see you soon.